It's 1 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and kick it off. Thank you all for joining me for the post-lunch session. Hopefully they've got it cold enough in here that will keep you awake. I'm Susan Haller, Senior Director for Analytics Lifecycle at SAS, and very happy to have you all here to spend the next 30-45 minutes taking a look at the Viya Copilot roadmap, what we have available now, and what we're going to be working on over the next couple of months. So, before we get started on the Copilot functionality itself, I want to kind of ground us in something that SAS has been known for, which is the analytic lifecycle, obviously near and dear to my heart. And it's that path from question to decisioning, and that full journey that we take to take our data from data into something we can actually act on. And in SAS Viya, that's going to include data access, your preparation, your governance, moving into exploration and modeling, and then finally deployment and monitoring leading into decisioning. So that end-to-end view, very important, because we don't do this work in isolation. Obviously, how you start is going to shape everything that you do going forward. So taking that life cycle and looking at it through a slightly different lens, instead of just looking at it from actions, let's look at it from the products that SAS Viya supports. Same life cycle, just making it a little bit more concrete. And you see that life cycle, same transition from left to right, moving from information governance into SAS Studio, visual analytics, model studio, then model manager, and intelligent decisioning. And sitting in front of all that, we have a blue tile for conversational AI. Why? As organizations are moving through this life cycle, we're not just asking one question and getting one decision. It's hundreds or thousands of questions and decisions every single day. So having that conversational entry point really starts to matter. And this is where we introduce SAS Viya Copilot. So Viya Copilot obviously is an AI-driven assistant for the analytics lifecycle. It gives people a really intuitive way to work across that platform using natural language right in the tools that they're used to working in already. So it's important to also say what it is not. So Viya Copilot is not a separate product. It is not a separate add-on that you're paying more for. And it is not taking control of all the analytics for you. Instead, we're taking Viya Copilot, we're embedding it within our products, we're making it so that you're more efficient in your day-to-day work while you're still relying on SAS to do those analytics for you. So we've been very intentional in our approach. We're not adding that Copilot into just one place. Again, we're embedding it into each of those products that you're working in. And that matters. We have people, different roles. They're entering that life cycle at different places. And we want to make sure that everybody, regardless of the role, has access to the Copilot and that they have access in a consistent way. So the Copilot's going to lead to kind of 4 big areas of impact. First, I've mentioned it a couple times, we want to meet people where they're working. So by embedding that Copilot, we're bringing the Copilot experience to the areas, the products you're already familiar with. Second, generating faster outcomes. And we're going to do that by reducing friction. You're going to see that over the next couple of minutes, so that teams can move more quickly across that life cycle from question to decision. And third, broader participation without lowering our standards. So this enables more people to come into the process. So we can take some of those repetitive tasks off of our experts, and we can lean in on that expertise where and when we need it. And lastly, and one of the most important, trusted execution with human in the loop. And we know this is critically important for any of those regulated industries where we need a focus on governance or explainability. And so that automation is always very intentional. We're going to automate where it helps, but we're going to keep our users in control. So that human in the loop oversight is core to how we designed and built SAS Viya Copilot. So with all of that context, let's take a look at the roadmap. And this is obviously about how our Copilot experience is going to evolve over time. I'm going to walk through 2 things today. First, what's available today. Hopefully that you'll be excited about going and starting using this afternoon. And then what's coming next. So we'll start with what's today. And instead of kind of working across that life cycle from left to right, what I'm going to do is focus in the middle first, because that's where we've made the biggest impact for the users today with our SAS Viya Copilot. So we'll start with Model Studio. If you're familiar with Model Studio, if you're not familiar with Model Studio, it's our visual application for model building, and it's typically done through an interactive drag and drop UI experience. And what you see here on the diagram should look very familiar if you use Model Studio. the same pipeline experience, the same drag and drop functionality that you have. What's new is the Copilot chat pane on the right. And you're going to see this Copilot chat pane consistently through most of the products I'm going to show today. There's going to be a couple of exceptions that I'll highlight. So that Copilot is context aware. It's going to know what product you're working in. It's going to know the context of the problem you're trying to solve. In Model Studio, it's going to be aware of your data. It's going to be aware of your pipeline. It's going to know your settings. It's going to know where you are in that workflow, so that anywhere where you're engaging with Copilot, you can ask very specific tasks. So let's take a quick look at Copilot within, again, Model Studio. This is where typically you start. So it's a pretty blank canvas. We have data, but then the user starts building out their pipeline or their model, kind of a node by node approach. What if you don't want to do that? What if you want to turn to Copilot and have Copilot kind of guide you through that experience? That's what I've seeded my Copilot chat pane with. So you can see here that I've already asked for it to suggest the next node, and it's returned to me several suggestions to consider a gradient boosting, a forest, or a transformation node. What you'll see is that none of those have been added to the pipeline for me. Again, that human in the loop. It's given me suggestions, but it's up to me on what and when I apply those suggestions. I'm going to not pick any of them, and I'm going to look at the bottom of that chat panel instead. And you can see another button down there that says to start exploration, and that's what I want to walk you through first. So I've hit the start exploration button, and underneath the covers we're trying multiple combinations of models, settings, different pipelines, all based on your data, trying to find that optimal next set of nodes to add to your pipeline. When it's completed, it's going to return that information back into the window for me, and it's going to offer me suggestions. I'm going to go ahead and select to add the imputation and gradient boosting mini pipeline, and it adds those nodes to the pipeline for me. It returns information about what I need to go into each of those nodes, the settings that I need to make. And we move into our next example. Here I'm in the results of the gradient boosting node. Those results have a lot of great information, but I want Copilot to explain them to me. So again, it's context aware. It's pulling all the results from this model. It's providing a summary of its findings. You can see in the right, it's giving me high-level overview. It's giving my key findings, my most important features, and an overall assessment. And finally, I'm highlighting a logistic regression node here. It wasn't chosen as one of my champions, so how can Copilot help me improve the model performance? Again, another iterative process going on underneath the covers. It's helping me look through different hyperparameters, different settings to improve that model performance. And again, up to me to choose to apply those, that update to the node, and when I select that, the diagram is updated for me. Okay. So we've just seen several examples in Model Studio where Copilot really is it's an enabler. It's helping you to do things where you've typically had to do that in a very manual or iterative process. So we saw it help us with that exploratory process to build out the pipeline, starting at our data node. We made modifications to an existing node so I could improve my model performance. And finally, we summarized the node results. All of this leading to informed explanations, intelligent suggestions, and one-click implementation. Important for me to just emphasize one more time, Copilot did not automatically make those changes for me. Human in the loop. It shows us what it found. I decide what and when I want to apply. So in all of these cases, you can see that the time kind of shifts. We're spending less time wiring things together, more time evaluating our results and making informed decisions. So that was a good example of Viya Copilot to build a model in a UI, a visual application. What about our programmer, the person who wants to build a model, but they prefer to build that model in code? Let's take a look at Copilot in that scenario. Here I've got VS Code. If you're a programmer, this should look familiar, whether you work in VS Code or you work in another IDE. What you don't see, of course, the second example I show is that chat pane on the right. We don't have that Copilot chat pane here, and that's intentional. One of the things, again, we want to try to do is to bring that Copilot experience to where the user is working. And for our programmer, they're not typically in a chat pane. They want to work in line within the code editor. And so here, you're going to see the Copilot surfaced in line. Let me highlight here. For those of you who are in the back, visually challenged, let me kind of walk you through this. There are 2 lines that we have highlighted in this pink box. And that first line is in yellow, and that is Copilot actions that we're surfacing within the program editor. You have the ability to comment, explain, or generate code. So if you can't see those 3 things, that's the first line. On the second line in that highlighted text, I'm actually creating a comment for what I want Copilot to act upon. So in this example, I have a comment requesting that for each product category, I want to create a separate regression model to predict sales based on customer age and gender. So I'm going to take this comment and I'm going to go ahead and select that Copilot action to generate code. You can see Copilot's off, doing its work, and it's returning to me a proc GLM select code block with the syntax that does exactly what that comment asked for it to do. So what if I want to add comments? We all know we need comments. We all don't love writing comments. So let's turn to Copilot and see if they can help with that tedious task. So again, I'm going to highlight that GLM select code block, and I'm going to hit that Copilot action add comment. And it's going to go off, and it's going to return that code block back where it's added those comments to each line in my GLM select call, making my code much easier to understand and to maintain over time, but again, removing that repetitive, time-consuming task from the developer. Finally, I've finished my model building, my program is ready, and I want to create an explanation of this code. So I'm just going to, again, pick that one little block. You could take your whole program, and I'm going to select the explain code Copilot action. It goes off and it returns a nice-to-read explanation in natural language that you can share across your colleagues. So what have we just seen here? We refer to this as SAS Code Assistance, by the way. And SAS Code Assistance, it's not about writing a program from you from start to finish. Instead, it's about reducing that friction in the work that developers are already doing, taking care of those repetitive, time-consuming tasks so that your developers can focus on building and improving the models instead. So again, I focused on the middle, the modeling piece of that analytic lifecycle, because that's where the Copilot really is more impactful right now. But that doesn't mean that we don't have the Copilot across the lifecycle. We do. And so I'm going to briefly touch on some of the other areas that Copilot's available for you today, starting with information catalog, where Viya Copilot is really going to be about understanding and tracing your data. Then we're going to quickly look at Copilot in visual analytics, where it's about iterating on your reports and your insights. Into Model Manager, where we start monitoring and governing our models in production. And finally, we'll look at Copilot in intelligent decisioning, where we're looking more towards how do we test scenarios and take action at scale. So let's start with data. Teams often are going to ask questions like, where did my data come from? How did it get here? What are the additional dependencies that I have on my data? And this is where we use SAS Information Catalog and where Copilot can really come in and help. So this information exists. We can get these answers today without Copilot, but it's also often spread across many different places, across different diagrams, across different metadata views, different tools, and so it makes it hard to get to that answer when I want that answer. So with Copilot, we're allowing users within Information Catalog to ask those questions as they're popping up. And so you can query your lineage, you can query your governance metadata, and you can get that plain language response. The questions don't have to be the same. Oftentimes you're going to have questions about privacy or compliance. Sometimes you're going to have questions about data quality or risk. And sometimes you just want to find the right data. So let's take a look at a couple of examples here. I'm in Information Catalog. Again, now you're back to seeing that common chat pane on the right. And I might just want to ask it to do something simple, like which columns in this data set have privacy information. We're going to query our documentation, and Copilot's going to come back with that very clear answer, identifying those columns containing the sensitive or the privacy information, and clearly showing the metadata that we use to help classify those fields as such. We might want to figure out, do I have quality issues in my data? So is there anything within this salary data set that I should be aware of? And so Copilot is returning, in this particular case, it found issues such as low completeness, outliers, limited uniqueness, and we can go ahead and we can start understanding and addressing these quality issues before we actually start using it in our model building process. And it can be as simple as just find me all the data sets that are available to me that have SUV information. Again, It's going out, it's looking at everything, returning a list of those relevant tables. We're seeing the associated metadata. So it's allowing us to discover the data using that natural language instead of having to build complex search filters. So within Information Catalog today, Copilot isn't about automation. Instead, it's about faster understanding. As you move from data into asking questions about what is your data telling you or exploration, this is where visual analytics is the product that comes into play. And this is where Copilot starts to act a little bit differently, because oftentimes our exploration isn't a one and done type of activity, it's iterative. We want people to interact with their data, they want to refine their views, they adjust pages, they're doing a lot of things on the fly. They're really trying to understand what's actually driving the results. And Copilot, in this case, is really helping that interactive exploration in a much more active way. So hopefully you all saw Marinella highlight a lot of the Copilot functionality in VA this morning in opening session. This will just build upon that. If you missed it, hopefully a nice introduction. So we'll take a look at a few quick examples here. I have a dashboard in VA, again, that Copilot chat panel on the right. And based on this dashboard, I want to better understand which warehouses have the highest customer satisfaction. Again, Copilot's context aware, so it's first going to pull in the current report, the data that's underlying that report. It identifies the relevant metrics. It knows that we're looking towards that customer satisfaction. It's going to take everything we've done to that data already, like aggregation and ranking, it's going to apply that first, and then it's going to return a response, which includes a nice visual that we can just pick up and shift and put directly into our dashboard, showing which warehouses and why they were of the highest rank. So it's eliminating a lot of manual steps, and most importantly, it's keeping the user in that the analytic mode versus having to shift into a report view or report mindset. We have another dashboard here, and I'm going to ask, in this case, the Copilot, I want to start tweaking my dashboard or my report. So instead of showing a visual that's time series, I want to switch that out for a forecast visual instead. This is where Copilot can also come in and really help. It understands the intent of that request. It identifies the graph that we want to replace. It adds the appropriate forecasting visual instead, and it's preserving that context. So it's using those same measures, the same filtering, the same grouping that we had throughout the report. Removing manual steps and encouraging that kind of what-if iterative exploration. And last example for VA, this actually isn't surfaced through that chat panel. Instead, this is underlying all of the widgets that we have in our reports, but it's utilizing Copilot to do so, and it's generating graph summaries. So for everything that you have in your dashboard or in your report, Copilot is analyzing that component. It's highlighting trends, it's highlighting correlations and patterns, and it's presenting it all in an easy-to-read format. So it's making our dashboards much more accessible and consumable by a broader audience. So across these three examples, same goal here. It's helping you iterate faster. Again, just that human in the loop. You're deciding what you do, how you change it, but the Copilot is helping you with options and iterate faster. So we're shifting again. We're shifting out of that exploration phase, and now we're looking at what models are running in production. And so our questions are going to change. We're moving into Model Manager. And this is where your questions are going to be more about discovering insights, more about monitoring, understanding, and maintaining your models over time. And our Viya Copilot here is really focusing on helping people to get their answers more quickly. So I'm in Model Manager, I can see all of the models that have been registered for me, and I can turn to Copilot to say, help me understand out of these candidates how my champion model is determined. It's going to return that response. It's helping me understand how the champion was selected, what evaluation criteria I used, the logic behind that decision. It's reducing the need to kind of navigate through multiple tabs and documentation in Model Manager. Here I've registered an open source model into Model Manager. And this is where a lot of people aren't really sure what Model Manager functionality supports for that open source model, and so you can turn to Copilot to get some guidance here. So what can I do with this Python model? Am I able to even take it from Model Manager and deploy it into Azure? Copilot, again, it's not doing that deployment for you, but it's providing very clear guidance on what is supported, how do you integrate with Azure, what configurations or constraints do you need to be aware of? So again, not yet performing the deployment, guiding you through the steps that you need to take and letting you know what is possible, what's supported. And then if you're not familiar with the model card, it's a very nice feature that is in Model Manager, but some people aren't familiar with it. So you can turn to Copilot and ask for more information on that model card. It's going to pull that directly from the documentation. It's describing the purpose of the model card. It's summarizing the information that it contains, why and when you want to use that model card. So it's helping the user not only understand that model card, but how to use it effectively. Again, all these examples within Model Manager, they're not about automation yet, but it's about clarity faster. And finally, as we make our final shift in that analytics lifecycle towards turning insight into action, that's where the intelligent decisioning product comes into play. And here the questions are really shifting. They're moving away from the models and they're moving towards decision logic. What does this decision do? What rules are involved? How are my outcomes determined? And Viya Copilot is going to help answer these questions by explaining concepts. It's going to explain the logic, how the outcomes are created. So here we're going to take a look at a few examples as well. We're in intelligent decisioning. We're looking at that flow diagram. And in this scenario, we want to create a couple of different actions in my flow, depending on their spending and their response to previous offers. And I'm not really sure how to do that yet. So I'm turning to Copilot, and again, context aware. So it's translating that business intent into decision logic, explaining how to structure the rules, how to create the outcomes within the flow without the user needing to really understand all the details and the mechanics of intelligent decisioning. In our second scenario, we've already created a bunch of business rules, but they're not behaving how I think they should. So in this case, we've created a business rule, but loans are being approved even when I think, based on my business logic, that they should be rejected. What's the problem? How do I help diagnose this? And so again, this is shifting. So Copilot is helping now in diagnosing that behavior. It's helping to explain how the rules and flows are evaluated so teams can identify where that logic isn't behaving as we expected it to. It's not yet changing and updating that logic for you. Rather, it's explaining it to you so that you can go in and investigate and do your validation. But it is saving a lot of time diagnosing complex logic and helping you pinpoint where you need to actually spend your focus. And last but not least, I want to build a business rule, but I want to build that business rule based on a pretty complex function. And in this specific scenario, I want to build a function based on a couple of variables within my data set, but I don't know the syntax to do so. So I'm turning to Copilot. And this is where we're getting into more of the advanced usage of Copilot in intelligent decisioning, because it's helping to explain that syntax, how that logic is expressed, and how to successfully do that in intelligent decisioning. So again, none of these examples are making those decisions for you, but it's helping you understand them so you can decide what to do next and do it better. So quick overview of what's available now. Again, just to reiterate the 4 key takeaways of Copilot now. Meeting users where they work, again, embedding those Copilots within the products. Reduced manual effort leads to faster work. Expanding access without compromising standards, and the critically important human-in-the-loop, trusted, governed execution. So everything you've seen so far, again, reflects what is available today. What's next is how we're going to take this experience and expand upon it and grow on top of that. And so as Copilot is evolving, we're still going to continue to support the full analytics lifecycle. We're still going to do everything you've seen today, but what's going to change is the type of help that we're offering. And so I'm going to try and go through these piece by piece and kind of paint a picture for you. We're going to start with data again and start in that SAS information catalog product. We saw just a second ago that Copilot already helps us discover data quickly using natural language to surface data quality issues, to understand sensitivity and privacy, to trace end-to-end lineage. Looking ahead, we want to build on that functionality. And so you're going to see an evolution from customers finding and understanding data to helping us better understand how and when to use that data. And over time, you're going to see that Copilot will increasingly help users ask higher level questions. Questions like whether a data set is correct for a specific use case, Or what downstream impact should I have in the back of my mind if I use this data set for a problem? So the goal here, again, to move beyond discovery and toward confident, informed decision-making about your data before the analysis ever begins. For our programmer, we talked about VS Code and that embedded functionality that allows the programmer to really be much more efficient. As we move ahead, we're going to expand that so it's not just in our VS Code extension, but that it's going to be available in SAS Studio, our SAS Studio product, as well as our Microsoft 365 product. We're also going to expand it so that it doesn't just support SAS code generation, but it will also support Python code generation. The goal here, consistency. So regardless of whether you're sitting in VS Code, whether you're in SAS Studio, whether you're in Microsoft, the Copilot is going to continue to support that inline experience to help you generate, explain, and refine code. Again, right there in line where you're working. So we're going to take the experience we have now, expand it to more users, more languages, and more products across the lifecycle. So once that logic exists in code, in SAS Studio code, the next evolution is to see how that all comes together in a repeatable workflow. So this is also an extension in SAS Studio into the flow builder view within Studio. Here the Copilot is going to not just help, it's going to continue to answer questions about the steps that are already on your flow, but it's going to take that a step further. And just like in Model Studio, it's going to help you determine what the next step in your flow might be, or to build a flow from start to finish for you. So as these flows take shape, we also have Copilot running underneath the covers. It's going to continue to generate documentation with every step along the way. And so it's helping all your flows to become easier to understand and reusable. The direction here, less about manual wiring, just like we saw with Model Studio, more about spending time and building a consistent and effective workflow. Building on those same patterns we've already seen, evolving at assisting at that code level and moving into also supporting at the workflow level. In visual analytics, what we're going to see with Copilot is a deeper, more proactive support for iteration. So for our designers, that means more help in generating those dashboards, refining your layouts automatically, and accelerating that iteration process. Reducing the time you're spending from an idea into creation of a report. For our viewers in VA, it means a more natural interaction with these reports. So I can ask questions, I can get explanations, I can understand what matters without having to be an expert. So we're really building on the Copilot patterns that already exist today. We're just scaling it to more people and to more roles within VA. For Model Studio, a lot of good stuff planned here too. This is going to continue to evolve from what we showed this morning, and it's going to start assisting with not just individual steps, but supporting a larger portion of the workflow through sustained conversation. Instead of an individual isolated prompt, it's going to be moving towards multiple step interactions. They're going to help teams do things like set up your projects, evolve pipelines. You're going to be able to carry your context across modeling decisions. And that's going to open up the opportunity for Copilot to do things like suggesting pipeline optimizations, clarifying interpretability in your fairness, and eventually generating more of that pipeline from natural language. And as context begins to be carried across steps, then you're going to see it also start facilitating things, downstream actions like preparing your models for registration, starting to link you into the other products that are along the analytics lifecycle. Patterns staying the same, Copilot's going to continue to help with that work. We're continuing to see that human in the loop and just evolving that as we go forward. And for Model Manager, what's coming next? A meaningful step forward. We saw that the Copilot, as it is today, helps you explain warnings. It's helping to document things, helping you understand your evaluation criteria. Looking ahead, it's going to become more intentional about guiding people through that analytic life cycle as you move towards operation and production. And that's going to include things like explaining errors, warnings, results within your score test set, your performance monitoring, your publishing. It's going to recommend actions that address issues in your score code or in any dependencies that might exist. And it's going to help teams understand model health by explaining assessment criteria, highlighting areas of potential risk. Importantly, it's going to help those next best actions across the life cycle, like the champion challenger designation. How do you deploy your model, and when and how do you retire a model? And finally, intelligent decisioning. So looking ahead to SAS intelligent decisioning, Copilot's going to evolve into a much stronger productivity partner for you. It's going to move towards being able to generate those executable business rules directly from natural language, things like your CSV files. It's going to accelerate your decision logic by suggesting nodes to add to your flow, drafting flows, reducing the time that it takes for you to manually build these out piece by piece. And over time, it's going to start helping to support testing and refinement. So to validate your logic, surface issues, debug that decision behavior before you've built it into your production process. Again, the result, faster decision deployment, greater consistency, and more confidence as you're building your decisions and scaling that into production. So beyond the individual products within the lifecycle, Viya Copilot is also going to be added at the platform level. And the goal here, we want to make Copilot is going to be a more consistent entry point for everyone into Viya. So you're going to help people orient, discover capabilities, and get started faster. And we're going to see this in a couple of areas. The first is in SAS Home, where Copilot is going to help users understand what's available, how to get started, what product do they actually need to land in. We're adding it into Environment Manager, where it's going to help with it's going to help your admins better understand how to configure and your system health. And finally, a more flexible customer-managed documentation RAG. You saw a bit of that, hopefully, in opening session this morning, where organizations are going to be able to ground their Copilot in their own documentation and knowledge. So each of these enhancements is more about making Copilot more useful, not just to the analyst and the data scientist, but to everyone who's involved with operating and running Viya. So hopefully you realize what's next isn't a reset. It's really building on what's available today. It's expanding it across more of Viya. It's applying it higher levels of work and extending it to more roles, always keeping that human still in the loop. So that was just a quick tease, a quick little intro to all these things. Obviously, there's an opportunity to learn a lot more and drill in deeper about the Copilots for each of these products. There are a few great ways for you to do that. I'm highlighting just a few additional deep dives that are taking place today and tomorrow through roadmap sessions, demos, and some super demos. There are also, obviously, Innovation Hub, where you can come to the booth and we'll spend a lot of time in each of these products individually, drilling in more deeply. And also, we have SAS experts around that can help at any point along your SAS journey. So Ross, do we have time for questions? Yeah. Okay. Any questions? Quiet bunch.
Like in standard Copilot, it kind of knows what you've done in the past, and it'll build on that. Does this do the same thing?
Can you say that one more time? I'm sorry.
Well, like in standard Copilot, it kind of learns what you did in the past and it builds on it.
Correct.
Just do the same thing?
Correct. So just like standard Copilot, we're keeping that history. And right now, that's kind of within each product. So right now, it remains in that context of the product you're in. In the future, that history and that context will go from product to product. So that's coming in the very near future, too. I think we had a question over here.
Thank you. I have a couple questions I'll try and go through quickly. For the environment manager, is there going to be an application to troubleshoot the logs directly and provide you summaries on what failures you've had and why?
Great question. My gut says yes. Not my area of expertise. That's one, please go to the booth and ask them. I can't imagine that it wouldn't.
Okay. We mentioned its application in VA, and you mentioned it'll be able to write Python or assist with Python. Will it also be able to help with creating DDC objects and HTML and the JavaScript that comes with that?
That hasn't been added to the roadmap yet. So first it's SAS, Python, then R for the programming experience. Again, probably further down in the roadmap, just not prioritized for the next few months.
Okay. I have a couple more quick
No,
ones.
you're good.
When you showed those summaries of the charts on VA, if you print those in your scheduled jobs for exporting VA, do those graph summaries also have a way of being exported?
I can answer the question for Model Studio, and the answer to that is yes. I don't, you're asking me the hard questions that I don't know the answers to. Go ask them in the booth for that one. I think there is a way that when you view the reports, you can include the, like when you expand out each widget, then the inline like Copilot response is included in it. It probably just depends on if you've expanded that out or not.
Okay. And then one of my favorite things that you showed was the code summaries that it wrote, like the high level, not necessarily inline, but the block summary.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a thought to have those be automatically generated as like a secondary tab on Studio, so it'll always give whoever's opening a project the opportunity
Something
to
to
see?
read?
Yeah.
Excellent suggestion. I will add it.
Okay. And my last one, is Copilot going to be multilingual?
Right now, it's English only, but on the roadmap to be multilingual. Yep.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep,
I appreciate
sure.
all the feedback.
Hey, I was just wondering if you could, you mentioned full pipeline control for Model Studio. Could you kind of expand on that a little bit? Do you mean like you could do a natural language query and say, hey, I want to run a counterfactual and rerun this model for the past 30 days?
Right, and so what you can do now, and what you can do now is add a node one at a time. You know, it's still a single request, one request at a time. When we start being able to add multi-requests, you're going to be able to say, create me a node with these settings, attach it to, you can kind of walk through multiple steps in your pipeline. It's going to literally allow you to do anything you can do through a point and click environment. Scheduling, you mentioned scheduling, so that I want to run it every 30 days. We don't have that scheduling functionality baked in yet to Model Studio, so it's not going to be able to do that. That's not a part of what Model Studio does. But anything else that you can possibly envision that you would do manually, Copilot will be able to do for you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think we had one more over here.
Thank you. So we currently are on Viya 4, and we have VA, VS, and SAS Studio.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we get our hands on Copilot? Is there a specific stable version that we need upgraded to?
Yes, it is there already. Do you know what version you're on? So I don't want to speak specific about the version for VA without confirming it, but it is available now. Probably, are you on the latest LTS?
2025.09.
Should be there. It should be there. You just have to opt into it. So again, it's not adding a new license. It's not paying for anything more. You just have to turn it on.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other takers?
If we have SaaS products hosted in-house on-prem cloud, will Copilot still be available?
Yes. All right, well, I'll be around for 5-10 more minutes. If you have questions and just don't want to raise your hand, just come find me. I'll be waiting up here. And again, thank you all for joining.